Hello and welcome to laqcuer guitar rebuild number 9. So all we're going to do today is show you the preparation for spray. We're going to use normal everyday kind of spray paint, get a few layers on it, and then after that we're going to put gloss layers on it so that we can get a nice finish of it. Obviously the first thing that we did is that we had to fill in all the little dents and nicks and scratches. So that was done, as you can remember in the last video. You would have remembered the holes that we filled up because we were going to re-drill them with all sorts of different things. These holes were filled with a kind of a little stick, like a matchstick or something, surrounded by good wood glue. Other kind of dents were fixed with body putty, things that are not water soluble. So there's a combination of things to fill in all these holes. So all these holes have now been filled, and what happens is once you fill these holes, they have little ridges, so they will be a little bit up, make little, hills and all sorts. So firstly, let's have a quick look. So all these holes have been filled. There's one here and here and here. So there was a huge amount of dings in this poor guy. So what we need to do is first get that main ridge off. So the best way to do it is to use a scraper or a chisel or something like that. Something that's very sharp and something that you can just take the tops off. So you quite gently, you don't force it, you gently just start scraping all the kind of excess bulgy material off. This is another reason why it's important to let the stuff dry. If it gets wet, if it's still wet, it has a tendency to still ply around, and you're pushing it around rather than actually scraping the tops off. However, I've already done most of this, so all we really need to do now is start with the sanding. So as you can see, we've already sprayed the insides here with kind of a metal paint for the purpose of shielding it. That's already been done. Every single bit of it has actually been done, so it's quite well shielded. Now we can go into starting the actual horrible process of sanding everything. So my suggestion with an old guitar like this, especially something that's made of crappy wood, especially something that's made of plywood, anything like that, is that you actually leave a thin layer of the original paint on. And the reason is very simple. Most spray paints or paints do not actually like going on wood. For some reason they stay kind of wet for ages, I mean months. So actually leaving it on, spraying onto this is probably not the worst idea. We have got a couple of options. We do need to sand it down so that everything is absolutely flush. The other reason we sand it is so that we give the paint a little bit of grip, so you get the finish a little bit of a bite to it. So, and that's really just as simple as starting process of sanding. Now there's a couple of ways to do this. I would first get the main rough bits done, and then you can go back into using, making sure that you're using wet and dry sandpaper. So you can do wet sanding, which always works better every single time. However, I would wait until you've got a bit of a bite first and get the majority of the stuff off before you go down that route. Now, the main things you should be concentrating on is getting these ridges flush. If the paint starts making like gummy little balls underneath the sandpaper, then you have to use wet sanding right from the start, and then whatever paint's been used it's just not plain ball. This body putty stuff, however, is nice and dry, so you can nice and gently kind of sand this down. Again, sanding is all about patience, so working it nice and gently, and using your fingers to actually feel if you're getting rid of the kind of little ridges. That's perfect. This stuff works so well. And then you don't have to go too far with this, because the paint that's going on top of this, now I've already checked this, sits and takes very well on this previous finish. However, when you're doing this, it's probably worthwhile testing your paint on the body first, making sure that it actually takes well. If it doesn't take well, then you've got a problem, and you've got to make some decisions. Either sand it all the way down to the wood, or trying to find a different spray or gloss or enamel that will actually stick. But this will work out just fine for this one. There are also quite a nice selection of sandpaper and abrasives to use. The majority of these that I use actually come from the car or for-car industry. This one is like a sponge with a little bit of abrasive at the top, and once the main abrasive has been worked down, it actually becomes really nice to hold it, and it doesn't sand too much, and it makes a really nice surface at the end. And they're so easy to use, and they're cheap to buy as well. They're not too expensive, and they're really good for doing corners. And it's just basically a way of getting a nice equal sanding with flat surfaces at the end. Now I'm gonna have to work these a little bit, make sure they are flat, but this seems to be going just fine. And for some reason these seem to work for ages, even if they're already kind of blunt, if you like. They seem to really work well. So this whole thing is going to get sanded, and the next part will then be to actually start spraying this guy. The sandpaper that I'm using is a 400 grit. You can go down to 200 if you want to, but I wouldn't go finer than 400, and I wouldn't go lower than 200, because if you go lower than 200, the sandpaper makes too deep scrapes into the previous finish, and those scrapes actually show up after spraying, and then you've got a huge amount of sanding to do when you're spraying. So once the spraying starts, it's really just a case of thin layer by thin layer by thin layer by thin layer, every time sanding just the pieces down that require a little bit of attention. So it's going to be a lengthy process, and I'm not sure that I will make that into a video, because it might just be a little bit boring. Anyway, that is it. Where are we? Chisels, scrapers, somewhere between 200 and 400 sandpaper, wet and dry ones please. That's usually the best option. The other thing that is a good idea for preparation for sanding is that you actually put some sort of screw or something into this neck piece here where the neck recess is, because it means you can hang it up or put it somewhere safe, so that you can spray the whole thing at once. You don't have to spray one side and then the other side, so you can hang it up somewhere for it to dry. That's it. Guitar rebuild number 9. All done. Thank you very much.